Okay, so we have started recording. So watch your tones. Okay, so real quick, my name is Crystal. I am the chapter lead of the Florida Ag Women Connect chapter. Try this again. Ag Women Connect is a nationwide organization for women in agriculture. Our goal is to provide not only a networking community, but also to be advocates for agriculture and the role that women play in it. We showcase the stories of the diversity of women in agriculture throughout the country. We also have a foundation where we support young adults trying to get into the ag industry, and also farmers and ranchers that have faced hard times due to either severe drought, weather, natural disasters, things of that sort. So the whole basis of the organization is to promote agriculture, the role of women in agriculture, and the history of agriculture and the Western industry. We are nationwide. We have chapters all the way from Florida to Colorado. I believe we're getting one in California. So we've got Texas, which is where we're headquartered out of, and New Mexico, Kansas, Indiana, Arizona, Tennessee, and we're just growing by the hundreds, and we're excited for everything that we're doing. So the purpose today is for the Ag Women Connect Florida chapter to present to our community and just educate on things that impact us, especially here in Florida, which, like I said in our post, mosquitoes impact us year round, it seems. And so I figured, why not touch on how mosquitoes impact livestock? Because we all know that dogs can get heartworm disease from mosquitoes, but they also impact our livestock, and that impacts our livelihoods, our food supply, and so many different things, which is why I appreciate Sherry and Anna for joining us today with the Indian River County Mosquito Control, and to just kind of educate us and let us know how mosquitoes impact livestock and what we can do to circumvent the situations and improve the conditions, so that way we can manage the mosquito issues and improve our situation. So again, thank you, ladies. If you don't mind, if you give us a quick brief introduction of who you are and what you do, and a little bit of your background before we get started. Sherry?
Sure. My name is Sherry Burrows. I am the Executive Director of the Indian River Mosquito Control District here in Vero Beach, Florida. I've been with the district since 2016. I've been the Executive Director since December of 2020. I have worked in mosquito control since 2007. I am a biologist by a bachelor's degree in limnology, actually, which is freshwater biology. And I'm currently attending FGCU to pursue my master's in public administration, which I'm hoping to graduate in May of next year to do that.
Awesome.
So I'm glad to be here.
Okay, my turn?
Yes.
I am Anna Kirkland. I am the newly elected Mosquito Control Commissioner in Indian River County. I am third generation Floridian and have always had beef cattle. My whole family does that, and we always have. Do you want really, I can list off everything I'm on, but it takes a while. So I'm just gonna go with Indian River County Cattle Women President and the Florida Cattle Women Secretary right now. Because
awesome.
There's a lot of little in-betweens, but we're gonna go with those.
Perfect. They're just enough. But I will then turn it over to you, Sherry, to kind of just dive into head first what we're here for tonight.
Okay, I'll try to orient this. So I too, I was raised on a ranch in Central Florida. So we have beef cattle as well. I haven't been actively involved in any of the Cattle Women or Cattlemen's Association. My father was, but I've not been. But anyway, I'm familiar with the association and that. So mosquitoes are a nuisance to everyone, and we do have the running joke around the office that we're in our season or not, because just as you said, Crystal, earlier, mosquitoes are year round. You can find them whenever. Our peak season, or the heightened part of our season, is in conjunction with our rainy season. So April, May is when we really get cranked up on through the summer months, and hopefully tapering off in October. But we can find them year round. We do mosquito surveillance through trapping. So we set baited traps that have a dry ice as the attractant. They have a light and a fan, so they fly to the light and the CO2, and they get trapped in there. And that's how we determine populations. And we have about 23 of those traps throughout our district, and we monitor those populations. And by state requirements, we have to meet a certain threshold in order to provide treatment or control measures. So if Joe Q Public calls up and says, I've had a problem, can you just send the truck? We can't do that without having our surveillance or sending an inspector out to verify that that is indeed the problem and what the threshold is met. So mosquitoes are a nuisance to anybody, whether you're recreating, whether you're just going out to walk your dog, or you have livestock. I own horses personally. It's a challenge to manage mosquitoes, because how do you protect the animals when at least people can come indoors and escape them? So some of the things that we recommend is we use a term called source reduction. Basically, it's removing the habitats with which the mosquitoes are going to be in. An example for livestock is water troughs. I can produce a bazillion mosquitoes in my horse water troughs. They're nice little habitats. They're stagnant water. The water's not flowing and moving, so it's a great opportunity. I personally take mine and dump it out and flush it on a routine basis. Buckets, if you have barns that have water, or you're hanging buckets on the side of a fence and they're holding rainwater, if they're not cleaned and dumped regularly, they can produce a lot of mosquito problems. You can place, instead of dumping all your water, you can place mosquito fish, which are, most people just know them as it's the top minnow. It's a generic looking top minnow. They're available and you can find them in all kinds of natural environments, but they do eat the larval form of the mosquito. Now, they're not going to do the best, and we do have a job because the mosquito fish can't kill all the mosquitoes, but they do. It's an easy way to introduce them to the horse troughs or their livestock troughs, so they can eat the larvae and keep the populations down.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's a biological type of thing, and we've done that and introduced that into some people if they have koi ponds or they just have a small water. Most of your natural water sources, like ponds, are going to have those mosquito fish, so those provide some level of control. It's the stagnant water, it's the little ditches that are temporary that may hold water for a period of a week or two, are going to be the sources of where that is. The concerns with livestock, specifically horses, is going to be your West Nile virus and your what we call triple E, or Eastern equine encephalitis. There are vaccinations for horses, and it's strongly recommended that you vaccinate your horses in that. It's recommended that you do that every 6 months to have a vaccine, and it covers them. I've had, in my experience, I've been, those cases get reported to us through the veterinary, reports them to the Department of Health, and we get those calls. I've gone out on site, not here in Indian River, thankfully, but in my prior jobs, and gone out and speak to the horse owner. And the common story I heard was, I just forgot, it was a 2-year-old filly. I had to put her down. or it was an old horse we had out to pasture, was a ranch horse we don't use anymore. We didn't even think about it. And so those have been the ones that seem to be, they're out there in the environment. They're going to be that. But the vaccinations are affordable. And it's something that I encourage, that if you've got horses, that you're vaccinating them for West Nile and Eastern equine encephalitis. Here at the district, we have a Sentinel chicken program where we utilize chickens. There's 6 chickens to a flock. We have 8 flocks distributed throughout the district, and we monitor them for building the antibodies to West Nile and EEE. So the chickens will not succumb to the virus. They will just build antibodies. So we bleed those chickens through the wing, and then we bleed them on a weekly basis. We take the blood samples, we send them to the state lab in Tampa, and they analyze it to determine if there's any detection. And so they're sentinels because if there's detection, then we know there's transmission that's going on in the area, and then we can isolate those control measures to that area to provide control. Thankfully, knock on wood, we haven't had any cases here in Indian River County. In the Panhandle, it's more almost considered an endemic. They've got, I think, a couple of human cases now of West Nile in that area, and sentinel chickens are popping off and testing positive for antibodies, showing that there's transmission going on. So it's something we do on an annual basis. We bleed those chickens year round, but our active time that we're looking at is early on in the season. If we see transmission, then we know it might be a rough year, and we can try to cut that off at the pass, so to speak. We do usually get about 4 chickens that seroconvert and show positive antibodies for West Nile. But usually it's late in November, and so there's not a heightened risk for transmission, but we take it seriously to monitor that. There's sprays that you can apply to more horses. If you've got a herd of cattle, you're not necessarily going to go out there with a spray bottle and spray them all. But if you have horses, there are synthetic pyrethroids. If you look at the label on any of the over the counter, but things that you can buy in a feed store, tack store, big box store, home improvement store, they're going to have pralethrin or a pyrethroid or a permethrin. They're going to be in those small percentages, so they're not as potent as someone with a restricted use pesticide that can apply, but those are going to be something you can spray on the animal to just to keep the mosquitoes from biting them. So there are others. There's we call it BTI because it's basically the acronym for Bacillus thuringiensis israeliensis, which is a bacterium. It comes in a floating briquette or dunks. You might see it in a home improvement store as a dunk. And you can put those into the water, and the mosquito larvae feed on that. And it's an insect growth regulator, so it disrupts their growth pattern so they don't emerge as adults. So.
And that doesn't impact, like you would put that in, let's say the feeding troughs, and then it doesn't impact the animals.
Right, because it's specific to, it's an insect growth regulator. So the mosquito larvae ingest that to eat it. Now, I haven't tried that in my horse troughs. I just go with the dump, tip and toss, or unscrew the plug and drain all the water out and refill it with fresh water, because it gives opportunity to clean it out from the algae growth that's on there. So I don't know if I've covered too much, or
no, you've actually
it's a lot of the same stuff that I already have down.
Okay.
No, and I think it's great because I wouldn't have thought of that. Because my experience with cows, I have more experience with cows than I do with horses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mainly the horse flies and the flies, and you just take the paintball gun, shooting, and they're good to go. You just hope it doesn't rain for the next 48 hours, and you're good. but we kind of touched on this before we started recording, with the whole situation. I think it was back 2-3 years ago in Louisiana, where they lost a lot of livestock because of the mosquito swarms after a hurricane. And then Florida, we're prone to hurricanes and severe weather, and especially nowadays where we're more flood prone, so more standing water. And I was like, okay, that's a concern, because I guess that the reports are saying that they become anemic because of the mosquitoes due to the large number.
Well, yeah, because they're drawing. That's what the mosquitoes use. It's the female mosquito that bites, so males don't bite. But they derive the blood. They need the blood in order to lay their eggs and develop their eggs. So it's an egg development reason is why they use the blood. But if you picture those, and I saw some of the pictures, unfortunately, of trailers of cattle that are piled up on a flatbed trailer because they suffocated from just all the volume, because they're going in for the carbon monoxide that's where they're going, that's attracting. So they just fill up their nasal cavities where they can't breathe. I mean, that was one of the, I think there was the Land Remembered book with, had a story about that, and the cows getting smothered because there were so many mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes are attracted to carbon monoxide. So when you breathe out, that's what they're attracted to.
Yeah.
So when the cows did it, they were going up their nostrils to where they couldn't breathe. It wasn't because they took too much blood. It's because they were suffocated.
Oh, wow. So,
yeah.
Okay. You learn something new every day. I did not realize that.
Well, and the large amounts of rainfall are going to exacerbate the problem. If those areas, the mosquitoes that we call them floodwater mosquitoes, those are the ones that are the most pestiferous. If you're in agricultural areas, like pasture, you have pastures. If you have, so in our area, we have a lot of old citrus, abandoned citrus groves. And so the furrows are there. Well, the furrows were designed, that's where the water goes. Well, that's where the mosquitoes are going to find their areas and their little nice little habitats. And now since there's no trees there, now it's open for cattle grazing. So now the cattle are out there, and now the mosquitoes have something to feed on because they're there. Those floodwater mosquitoes lay their eggs in the grass and in the soil, on the soil. So when the rains come, then they're flooded. And then when the eggs are flooded, then they emerge from the egg into the larval. There's 4 stages they go through in a larval stage before they emerge to the pupae stage and then the adult. With our extreme heat that we're getting now, that life cycle is speeding up incredibly, because the hotter it is, the faster the cycle goes. So it becomes a challenge. So drainage is important, making sure that, mosquitoes don't like moving water. So even if you have an aerator or something circulating, that helps deter them from depositing their eggs. We have different types of mosquitoes. We have actually in Florida, we have over 80 different species of mosquitoes. 40 of which we have documented here in Indian River. We're probably over that by now. And we have different ones. And that's one of the alarming things. People go, I thought there was only one. There's small ones, there's big ones. There's ones that like to be around humans. There's some that don't bite on humans. There's some that feed only on amphibians, frogs. There's some that are the vector, our primary vector, which is Culex nigropaulpus. That's the primary vector of West Nile and Tripoli, feeds on birds half of the time, and then feeds on mammals the second, which helps in that transmission cycle. If they feed on an infected bird, then 7 days later, they feed on an animal. That's how we get that virus transmitted. So those areas, and you think about, if those areas are flooded, where are the wading birds going?
Yeah.
To the water to see if there's any fish or bugs and that. And so as that you've got water, you've got mammals, you've got birds, you can see how the complete of the life cycle. So what we do is we don't have the capability or the capacity to treat all the agricultural areas, but we do treat our rural areas where our homeowners live to the best we can. And usually it's through an adulticide. So we're going after the adults. On our coastal program, we treat the larvae. It's a whole lot easier to catch them when they're in a water body than when they're on the wing and flying up to 25 miles in any direction. So it's a lot easier to do that. But larviciding in a rural pasture is very difficult because you can larvicide today, you can kill the larvae, it rains again, that egg bank was there, you've got a whole nother brood coming off. So after hurricanes, when we have large, widespread rainfall across the district, we will resort to doing an aerial adulticide, where we fly 77,000 acres of the district, and we have a coverage of adulticide. And so it has a greater coverage of a blanket control than our trucks do, because our trucks are driving only on the roadways.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. And that's a lot of mosquitoes, different types.
It is. And they're our staff do identify them to species. So as they get a trap, they sort them out and count the numbers. And with our vector species of Nigropalpus, they determine whether they're blood fed, meaning they've taken a blood meal, whether they're non-blood fed, whether they're gravid, which means they have eggs that they're getting ready to lay. So it allows us to look at the life cycle and where those are. And how many, is there more blood fed? And the older the mosquito is for West Nile and Triple E mosquitoes, the older the mosquito is, the more dangerous they are to transmit that virus, because they have to live long enough for the virus to replicate in their system to then be able to, if they bite somebody else, go out through the saliva to infect a human or a horse. So the longer they live, the worse, the more dangerous they are. So that's why we look at their age structure and figure out, are we dealing with really new ones? Then our risk is less. If we're really looking at these females are getting older, that's more of a concern. And we need to really watch our sentinels and see what's going on.
Okay. And then as far as, because like you made mention of how you're not able to obviously, cover all of the agricultural lands, because we have some pretty big ranches and farms around here. And does mosquito control look at establishing partnerships with the farmers and ranchers on working different ways to minimize the mosquito issues and, how to manage it within their, how is the relationship between ag and mosquito control to help those that you got your planes and your trucks can't get to? Is there a partnership in that route, or just education, like something kind of like this? Because like I said, I wasn't even aware of how bad things were. I know most involved in ag would be aware of the whole use the vaccines, but I love the fact that you presented different examples on how to mitigate it within like the troughs with the fish and the pellets and stuff like that. How is that education being disseminated to those that wouldn't be aware of it?
Unless they reach out, they can go to our website and look at that. They can go to the state, but without direct communication, it's kind of hard. They can't go to every single ranch in the district and give them updates on what they should do. I hate to say that, but
no, it's
the population's too large now.
Yeah,
space with everybody, which that's a great idea.
Yeah,
maybe you and I should add that to our list.
We could add it to our list, yes, especially with cattle women. We can throw that up there.
Why not?
Right.
Because it is a good idea.
Yeah, because the reason I asked is because there's so many new first generation ranchers and farmers that are coming in, even in the smaller, 5-acre parcels, 10-acre parcels, that like me wouldn't be aware of this. And then they're raising their livestock, they're raising their horses, and they give them the basic vaccines, but there's other things that,
Things around the house that they can, around their barn. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like we're not even, and just as general, residents, not everybody knows to, clear out your water fountain because it's stagnant, or clean out the bird bath. And then that impacts your farm, your chickens and your dogs and your rabbits and everything of that sort for the smaller scales. So it was an interest, like I was just curious to see how we can, work together to spread the word, because there's so many people coming into ag that we want to make sure that information is being, disseminated.
I think it's from our perspective, it's very hard, because if you're interested in mosquitoes, then there's information available. If you're not, you don't know about us. I say about the district, we've been here since 1925, our district. So we're almost going to celebrate our 100th year. Some people probably don't even know we exist, because back several, a couple decades ago, it worked to just be under the radar. Just do your job, keep your head down, don't draw attention to yourself. We didn't even have, even probably back in 2020, maybe 2005, 2010, we didn't even have our phone number in the yellow pages. It was everyone thought we were the county. And that doesn't seem to be a big deal. So, but now that we've moved into today's society, just doing a website, just being here and doing our job doesn't cut it, because today's society doesn't want that. They want information when they want it, or they don't want it. So it gets hard, because we can educate and we can tell people and we can have meetings and we can do that. But if they don't come, they're not interested. So I equate it, and my staff will know, because I use this analogy. It's like solid waste. How many people really care what happens to their garbage? If the garbage is still on the curb when you set it out for them to pick up and it's still there, you're going to be upset. But what they do with it, most people don't care. They don't care about what happens when it gets to the landfill, what kind of methane gas is produced, and what the environment. There's a small group that care, I think, about, the environmental impacts, but they're a minority. The rest of the people just pick it up. I don't care what you do, as long as I don't have to deal with it and it's not in my front yard and it doesn't smell on my, in my area, and the landfill's not in my backyard. So I equate kind of mosquito controls like the same thing. People don't have a problem with it, don't even know until they have a problem. I've got mosquitoes and now I want service, and I want you to come and take care of it. And then once you do, I don't care what you do. I don't care how you do it. Just make it happen.
Right.
Small group of people who are anti-pesticide, who are very vocal that they don't want our product because they're environmentally conscious and think that that's not the right solution. And then we've got the ones that they know, they've been around, they know we exist. They don't call. It's fine. They're not concerned. So it becomes difficult and we went through this with Zika. How do you get the message out for people to do and check their backyards and tip and toss containers and really embrace the concern and the risk of Zika? How do you get to them? You know, old way was you put it in the paper. Well, no one reads the paper. Well, social media. Well, unless it's attention grabbing and it's very short and they're not going to read a whole post about anything. So it was really a struggle on how do you get information out and to meet, and we put it on our website, and those that want to get it, we have it available. If you want more information, you can call us. but that's been the struggle with education, is how do you do it? Because not everybody's interested.
Just the 7 months that I've been doing this, we try to get more people involved in the meetings, like Terry, and they don't come. They say they're going to come and they don't come. It is very difficult to do. And I don't know why.
Yeah. No, you would think that something, especially that impacts high value items, your cattle, your horses.
When malaria came out, 2 months ago, a month ago, then it piqued everybody's interest, but that lasted for maybe a week.
Mm-hmm.
It did. And then it was gone again.
Okay. So it's, it's kind of like, I guess, educate the veteran, have a good partnership with, you're already doing it. 'Cause I've seen the website and you guys have a lot of information out there. And you're promoting the education. Now it's just getting the community to finally start paying attention. And one thing that you did touch on, Sherry, was those that are against pesticides. And when it comes to our livestock and, our grazing animals, those that fly over, how safe are they for our grazing animals?
Well, all of our products that we use are authorized by the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. So they're all registered products and they're considered safe when used by the label. And the label is the law. And you'll hear my staff, that's kind of like the mantra of the label is the law. You have to abide by the label. You have to apply by the label, or you're in violation of the FIFRA. So and those products go through such scrutiny to be tested. But I've had people, when I've talked to them and I say that and it's the gold standard, and they go, yeah, I really trust the government. I mean, I don't know what else we're not just making up homegrown products and kind of doing it. We have to utilize products that are licensed and authorized by EPA. And that's what we do.
It's not the DDT that you see people running behind the truck anymore. It's not that anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome. I appreciate you ladies being here and sharing this information, because like I said, I wasn't aware of, and I'm pretty sure it's going to definitely educate those who will catch the replay. But if you could just, in closing summary, those quick tips that you have for around the farm and ranch, how to minimize the issues with, potential mosquito infestations, and how do they control and without having to use all the chemicals. Let's be for just recap real quick before we sign off. But yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay. So check your areas, look for standing water, stagnant water, drain it off if possible. Troughs, you can change the water frequently, either through draining the whole thing, or you can put gambusia, which is the mosquito fish. It's a common minnow. You can put those in the trough to eat the larvae. So as the mosquitoes come and lay their eggs on the side of the trough, when the water rises, then those eggs are submerged. The larvae's in there, then the fish can eat the larvae to maintain the population that way. Buckets, even dishes that are out, anything that can hold water.
Gutters.
Gutters around your home, kiddie pools, anything, a bottle cap, anything that holds water, tip and toss that. Make sure you're changing that water in a horse bucket for water. Make sure you're changing it out, rinsing it out, scrubbing it out. That removes the eggs, and we'll be better off to reduce the amount of mosquitoes that you get. There are, again, things that you can get in a feed store or a big box store and home improvement store that you can get, that you can purchase, that have their sites. Most of them are synthetic pyrethroids that you can utilize to apply to animal. You're not going to apply it to your whole herd probably, but if you have lots of cattle, but if you have, one or two animals or horses that you can spray that on to help deter them from getting, and vaccinate your horses. For West Nile and Triple E, you can purchase the vaccines. If you're a little cash strapped, you can purchase those vaccines at a feed store, or you can have your veterinary do it. But I strongly recommend that you do that to protect them, because there is a vaccine for West Nile and Triple E. So I think I got that. Wear long sleeves, long pants. Everyone says that when I say that, they go, "Oh my gosh, but it's Florida." But you're trying to keep them from biting. It's also good sun protection. So
if you have ponds, water aerators, they don't like moving water. It's the stagnant, standing.
Yeah.
They love.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, again, thank you, ladies. I appreciate you being here and educating me 100 times over, because now, I'm walking away knowing more than I came into it. And now we can set, try to get a education, partnership to start educating the masses in our agricultural and our rural communities. So again, thank you for your time, your patience, and I appreciate you. And, if you're interested in finding out more information about AgWomen Connect Florida, please reach out to me, and we'll get you connected. We'll get you hooked up with our resources. But again, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share what we do. If there's more information, people can go to our website, or Indian River Mosquito Control District at irmosquito.com. And if there's any questions, please don't hesitate to pick up the phone or send us an email. There's a link on there to our email address. We'll be more than happy to share more information that we have, or put you in contact with other people if you have more of a specific thing that you're looking for. But we're here to provide service to our residents and our visitors to our community. So we thank you again for taking the opportunity and inviting us to speak to this group. So thank you.
No, my pleasure. And we'll stay in touch, and we'll make things happen. So, awesome.
Sounds great.
Have a great day. Bye.